So not only does this beat propel the story forward, it also shows like a so this is just like a brilliant way, like someone who isn't Dan Harmon or like a more junior writer, for example, we just like, oh, he falls asleep, and no dream sequence, nothing like that. He just wakes up, right? You would show the repercussions, but this is just like, it's so great because like in a pilot, you have so little real estate to establish all these different things, right? So yeah, marvelous stuff. Definitely gonna steal this. It's like, so today's video is about the pilot of Rick and Morty, but it's part of a larger series that I'm doing where I review and deconstruct the TV pilots of all the top 100 IMDb TV shows. If you're interested in any of that, please drop a like or a follow to follow me on this journey of becoming the best writer that we can be, right? This is taken from my stream. I stream every Monday and Friday at 5:30 to watch a new episode, and the next one will be Better Call Saul by the OG Vince Gilligan himself. Enjoy the video. Today, we're going to be breaking down how Dan Harmon writes a pilot and why is he so good at it. We're going to take a look at the Rick and Morty pilot, what decisions he made, what creative choices he made, and delve a bit into his writing process. He uses a story circle, for example, so let's see how he sets up the pilot, the series, the show, the characters, the compelling conflict. Let's start with the A story and the B story. Clearly the A story is Rick trying to convince Morty to come on an adventure. Morty to join him over going to school. School education sucks anyway. Yeah, something along those lines. Jerry wanted to convince, the B story is obviously Jerry wanted to convince Beth Rick is a bad influence. I've discussed it before, but I'll go back at it. That a TV pilot often has multiple things that it has to fulfill, right? Like it needs a strong opening, very juicy concept. It needs to launch a story. It needs to establish all the context necessary to like follow the story. It needs to have compelling characters. So this is a comedy. Rick and Morty is not serialized. Like it's just episodic. So it doesn't need to set up less of a series arc in the season's arc, but it does need to set up the themes and the character relationships. And Dan Harmon just does it so brilliantly, I think. Then he set up an interesting world. Every scene has to have good escalation, good opposition, meaningful stakes. It needs to be genre satisfying, so it's a comedy, so it needs to be funny. It needs to showcase like the characters and who they are. So part of the compelling character is like what are they very strong at, and then what are they weak at, or what do they fear? What is like their greatest insecurity? And then a story engine, which is like what are we going to mine for content or for like stories? And then it needs to have a theme or an experience that's tried to craft. And God, what a masterclass in writing this pilot is. So let's dive in. It started off with drunk Rick taking Morty on a self-destructive adventure. He picks up Jessica. Morty wants a relationship with Jessica, but Morty fights back. He doesn't want to go on an adventure. Rick lands. Neutrino bomb goes off. And Morty's there to pick up the pieces. Okay, so it's a very funny opening. It shows the UFO, right? It shows like, oh, this is a zany show. So it resets the tone and the theme. It's funny. We already know that Rick's a genius because he built this UFO out of the pieces in his garage. And Morty's just a victim, basically. So it really sets up, let's see. Strong opening, which is that beat number 1. They already do that. The concept is basically a genius scientist taking his dumb grandson on adventures, right? Very simplified. So that's also beat 1. We already got a taste of that. Okay, this is what the show is about. Story launch will be a bit later. It does set up it does set up all this in beat 1. Set up the season, set up the series arc, and also the pilot. The pilot story sets up in beat 1 as well. Good. Great. So that's a cold open. Anyway, let's move forward to Act 1. Morty's tired. Family doesn't like Morty being dragged off. Rick argues that he learns more on his adventures at school. This is truly the story launch, I think, from the A story and the B story, which is Rick arguing that his education is better, and Jerry is going to try and convince Beth that Rick is a bad influence for Morty. So right off, like right at the top, we know what the story's about, right? I think a lot of problems with new screenwriters or scripts I read is we're at page like 5, 6, 7, 8, and we still don't really know what the story is going to go about, what the direction of the story is. Or what you sometimes also see is like they set up in a whole pilot to like set up that it's an adventure show, but there's no adventure in the first episode. You know, it's like, oh, it's going to come after that. It's like, no, like the audience needs a taste of what the rest of this show is going to be about. So you need to have, if it's an adventure show, you need to have an adventure in the first episode, right? So they do that really well. One note, like, imagine you're just thinking of this concept, right? A genius grandpa abusing his dumb grandson, basically. What are ways that the parents are okay with this, right? Like, that's the major problem. So it's very smart to put that right up the pilot. You could make Jerry, for example, the patriarch of the family, like a very weak character, right? Like that's the only way, that's the best way that they chose, at least, to establish his character dynamic. Why is the mom okay with this, right? You could say maybe the mom is okay because she's also kind of like an insecure person and doesn't mind it. She doesn't care about her son at all. That's why she doesn't mind, or she's a workaholic. She's too busy to realize. Those are a couple of reasons. But why did they go with the reason which was, which they set up right at the start too?
I know that's not a popular opinion. That's my 2 cents on the issue. This was a good breakfast, Beth. You really made the crap out of those eggs. I wish your mother was here to eat them.
Oh, Dad.
What? For real?
So the reason they went for is that she's just very insecure that her dad's going to leave, right? And this is a great question that arises in the audience simultaneously because we don't know why, but there's like some deep-rooted emotional insecurity. Okay, moving on. Morty goes to school, so now we'll see that everything in the A story is along this axis of adventure versus education, right? Is he going to learn more with Rick, or is he going to learn more at school? We see the effects of his adventure, which is sleepiness. His sleepiness, he can't even pay attention in school. So what is a fun way, right, of showing the repercussions of going on an adventure with Rick, right? He could be flunking out of school. He couldn't have time enough to have. He couldn't have time enough to do his homework. He couldn't have time enough to prepare for a test. Yada yada. They choose to fall asleep in class. But not only does he fall asleep in class, he has a dream about Jessica. So not only does this beat propel the story forward, it also shows like a character's want. Like it also shows like how Morty, what Morty wants. Morty wants a relationship with Jessica, right? He's a teenage boy going through puberty, horny as hell. He just wants a relationship with Jessica. So this is just like a brilliant way, like someone who isn't Dan Harmon or like a more junior writer, for example, we just like, oh, he falls asleep, and no dream sequence, nothing like that. He just wakes up, right? You would show the repercussions, but this is just like, it's so great because like in a pilot you have so little real estate to establish all these different things, right? So marvelous stuff. Definitely gonna steal this. It's like, how can you fit a character moment in every single beat, you know? Oh, so good. Man, Dan Harmon is amazing. Okay, Morty gets bullied at school. This is an interesting beat, actually. Rick defends him. Let me pull this up. This is an interesting beat, right? So he gets attacked. Morty, Rick defends him.
Jessica.
And kind of as, let's watch this again. Actually.
My family's rich.
There you are, Morty. Listen to me. I got an errand to run in a whole different dimension. I need an extra pair of hands.
Oh, jeez, Rick. What'd you do to Frank?
Pretty obvious, Morty. I froze him. Now listen, I need your help, Morty. I mean, we gotta get the hell out of here and go take care of business. It's important. Come on, Morty.
Oh, no, Rick. I can't leave school again.
Do you have any concept of how much higher the stakes get out there, Morty? What do you think? I can just do it all by myself? Come on.
Oh, jeez, okay. I guess I can skip history. What about Frank? I mean, shouldn't you unfreeze him?
I'll do it later, Morty. He'll be fine. Let's go.
Oh my god. I'm about to walk past Frank Policki. This is the story we'll be telling our children. Hi, Frank.
Okay. That's interesting. So yeah, Rick just kind of bullies. First, Morty's bullied by Frank, and then Rick kind of just bullies him into coming on an adventure. So it's a great way to show the bad influence, right? And then I was curious if this is going to be like a C story. I know here at around the table, like Rick tells Beth God is dead, right? So it's just a little, because otherwise she's not really part of the pilot. So I think they just gave her a little 3-part story. Rick tells Beth God's dead, she denies, or something like that, right? She denies. Then Summer's belief in God is questioned. Summer sees Frank die. Summer's belief in God is questioned. Right? So it's like a little three-part story. Maybe for like a side character, it's just like a great way to give her a little arc. I sometimes write side characters and I don't give them arcs, you know? So this is like, yeah, I should do that, actually. Thanks, Dan Harmon. Thanks, Dan Harmon, for a tip. Okay, Morty gets bullied at school. Rick defends him. Okay, great. Then we go into the B story. Jerry interrupts Beth's horse surgery. He wants to put Rick in a nursing home, right? So we launch the B story. Actually, the B story was already launched here, basically. Rick takes Morty into a new dimension. He wants mega seeds. Rick manipulates. They gotta run from a monster. Again, through the axis of education versus adventure, and is good or not. We act break on the scary monster. Then we continue and we say they see a rare monster, can't see that in school, and they found the magic seeds. This stuff is kind of interesting, actually. You know, it does have some pros. Rick gives himself anti-gravity shoes, gives Morty the anti-gravity shoes, but he plummets because he doesn't turn them on. All right, we turn to the B story. Jerry argues Rick is a horrible influence. Beth argues he has a friend, and the principal calls. So even the school's getting involved now. The stakes rise, basically. By the way, this is also extremely... here's where we really start seeing the theme when Frank dies, where it's just like this existentialism that fuels Rick and Morty, right? And then it just never lets on. So then we have the break in the bones, and like, you know, just the total disrespect for life from Rick and from anything in the show. Then Rick heals him in an instant. He goes, you know, through the portal, shoots him with serum, and his legs are healed instantly. Those are just one of the possibilities of hanging with Rick. Then this is a classic MacGuffin like type of ordeal. Rick says the portal machine doesn't work anymore because the dimension he went in, time moves differently, so now it's all out of juice. Which is basically like, you know, because Dan Harmon probably got a note, or probably thought, like, well, it's going to be really easy. He's just going to use his portal gun to get out. End of story, right? So this is a great way of, like, establishing, oh no, we need to go through international customs, which is Rick's greatest enemy. He hates bureaucrats. So Morty has to shove the seeds up his butthole. Is it still educational? Well, you know, Morty's really getting stretched here, literally. Principal talks to Beth and Jerry, says Morty hasn't been attending school. This is a major win for Jerry versus Beth. Rick is being very bad influence. Summer's belief in God is questioned after Frank's death. Rick and Morty goes for customs. So funny. M has to go through the new machine that detects stuff up his butt. They gotta make a run for it. They're cornered. Morty uses a gravity boots. Oh, he's learning. Like, that's actually one of the more, finds that he does learn a little. Then Morty has to shoot the bureaucrats, scarring him for life, basically. So very, very bad influence, right? And we just see how bad of an influence Rick is on Morty. They manage to get back to school, beautifully arcing this this little like throwback of impressing Jessica while doing so. They run into the parents again. They're livid. They're kicking out Rick. Oh my god. Morty defends Rick even. And then Rick comes up with a brilliant test proving that Morty has become more intelligent, with the square root of pi, yada yada. They run into the parents. Jerry's happy, satisfied, off to have sex with Beth. Major win for Jerry. And then Rick reveals it's all been a lie. He's just temporarily intellectual because it's a side effect of seeds. And that's just great. Like, let's go with the theme. Okay, so we broke down the story. Let's go to like all the things that a pilot needs to accomplish, right? Theme and experience. Like, what is the experience you think Dan Harmon's trying to create here? Trying to craft? Like, it's a sort of existentialism. Yeah, sort of existentialism. Like, how do we feel as an audience after this final scene? I feel like Morty can't catch a break, right? Can't catch a break. Morty is doomed. Morty is... we're not really that smart. We really don't matter, maybe. Interesting. Because when you're writing a pilot, right, you got to think like, what is the experience you want the audience to have, right? What is like this theme that you really care about? And then you can go, you do your best to try to create that experience. Not quite sure what the experience was that Dan Harmon tried to craft, but it definitely has like an existential like feel to it, like just of our own, maybe like to humble us. It's like a dose in humility. That our life isn't that important. Okay, let's go through the numbers here. Story launch. So launch is beat number 3, I'd say. When Morty, Rick starts to argue that Morty going on an adventure is good. It's better than school, right? The necessary context. What context was given actually? Rick is a grandpa, Morty is a grandson. They live with Beth. So actually, like, very little context is actually required, I think. And it did that well. Compelling character. So right off the bat, we see Rick and his superpower, right? He's a genius. And he wants Morty, basically. We don't really know why he wants Morty that much, which is kind of interesting. Like, I guess he wants a buddy for his adventures. And but that feels satisfactory. Let's go to Morty. Morty doesn't have a superpower, which I think is a very deliberate choice. He's a weak character, and he's just overwhelmed, and he's like our audience surrogate character, right? Playing off of Rick. And what he really wants is Jessica. So, yeah, all rounded. And what would be his greatest weakness? I'm not sure. What would be his dark moment? Like, him shooting the bureaucrats is very dark. But is it necessarily because of his character? Not sure. Okay, organic story structure, which basically means is the plot propelled? Is the plot propelled by organic choices that the characters make? Right. So I think all the characters make organic choices. Take a look at the B story. Jerry wants Rick out because he wants him out because he's a weak character and he doesn't like another dominant male character in the house telling him what to do and being this influence. So of course he's going to try and convince Beth to kick out their father. Great, organic story structure, right? And of course Beth is going to defend because she doesn't want to lose her dad again. So it's great to let you have two character wants directly opposed, right? Morty just wants to go to school, but Rick wants him to go on an adventure. So again, directly opposed character wants makes for a great organic story structure. Stakes. I guess the stakes are Morty's education, which are personable, and yeah, they do feel good. Then the stakes rise when he goes to when you go to escape the bureaucrats, basically, and then it becomes a matter of life and death. For Jerry, the stakes could have been a bit higher, I think, like more. Tells like what are the stakes if Rick stays, basically. Let's go to opposition. Strong opposition. Like I said, like because the characters are both their protagonists and the antagonist at the same time, like they have conflicting wants. That makes for a great strong opposition. The stakes rise, or the escalation rises. Sorry, when what Morty has to do to be with Rick becomes worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Up to him shooting innocent people. They're just trying to do their job. So that's magnificent. Magnificent. Now, of course, a very interesting world is Rick and Morty. Like, it's zany. Great. As for the story engine, so normally a story engine is like, there's like this inherent contradiction in a particular story that like drives the episode, or drives the future episodes as well. So take, for example, Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's like this Aang character is the Avatar, who's an extremely powerful person, probably the most powerful person on Earth. Yet he's also a 12-year-old. That's interesting, right? And here, I wouldn't quite know what the story engine is. Like, you could say maybe... I had this realization off stream, I think, of what the story engine is, which is more that Rick is an all-powerful god. He's an all-powerful god, yet he still needs the help of an inept 14-year-old. And I think that's where a lot of the stories come from. So if you remember the pilot that we discussed, not only did Morty perform terribly at school and did he fall asleep in class, he fell asleep in class having a dream about wanting Jessica, right? Which is such a great character moment. So that's what I'm going to take away from my future script, my next script that I'm going to be writing. So yeah, if you enjoyed this type of content, drop a like and follow Hugo Writes on YouTube or on Twitch. And I'll see you the next time. I stream on Mondays and Fridays on 5:30 Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Come on, tune in for some cozy deduction and review of the greatest TV ever made.